On to the next sort of, I guess it's not tactical voting, but obviously there was the big campaign around both votes SNP. And interestingly, how maybe that wasn't the right play. I mean, I was, like I say, I'm honest about. I'm currently an SNP member. I think I support them broadly in terms of what they want to do, and I think independence is the right thing to do and inevitable. So it's ridiculous trying to prevent it anyway. I'm a strong Green supporter, however. I work in the environmental sector. That's my natural political home. So I split my vote. I did SNP 1 and Greens 2, and I think, interestingly, had more of that happened in certain areas, what you would have seen is Tories losing seats and Greens gaining seats, is my understanding. Because the argument the SNP made is, if you don't give us all your list votes, the Tories will get list votes, which I don't. In places like Glasgow and Central Belt, even the Highlands, I think it doesn't, and maybe Perthshire too. I don't think that necessarily tracks completely.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
and I know specifically.
I don't know. I go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know specifically about the Glasgow case, where it was like something like there was 100,000 dead SNP list votes.
Yeah, literally got nothing.
To get another Green MSP on the list, it would have taken 900 votes.
Wow, yeah.
So to increase that majority, because I wasn't fully aware of this until quite recently, but with the system, if you win the constituency, it's something like your list vote gets cut in half when they.
Yeah, which is fair. You're basically. You're not penalised for winning the constituency, but because you've won the constituency and it's a representative system, what they say is, right, well, you've got that seat. So what we're going to do now is, for the region, obviously there's a couple of constituencies within a region, it's done by region. So if you've won all of the constituency seats in that region, you're probably not going to get a list vote, because that's not representative. In a representative voting system, you say, well, you got all the constituencies, that's your win. You're going to end up with the most seats in that region, but then we're going to infill with the other parties that got maybe 20%, 15%, 5%.
Exactly.
You know, so, and that's what we saw.
By winning the constituency, the second vote, I don't see any argument again. I think you've done the exact right thing. If independence is your game and what you want to do, from a very realpolitik kind of angle here. I mean, look, the unionists are doing it. If you wanted independence, Glasgow could have got another one. Well, they were 900, I think, off another seat.
Another one, yeah.
Would have increased the indy majority. And imagine if tactically that had happened kind of more
elsewhere. Yeah.
Now I kind of see what the whole Alba parties. Because when they first said that, I was like, wait, but wouldn't you be taking votes away from the SNP? When you look at it like, oh yeah, it literally gets cut in half, to make the list votes more balanced for the as opposed to the constituency votes. I totally get the argument for giving that second vote to a party speaking, it will probably be coalition partners. And
exactly. I mean, we're going to talk about Alba in a minute. I have problems with Alba for a range of reasons. But I think they weren't wrong in what they were saying, was that the list vote is, in a certain degree, wasted if you win all those constituency seats. And the Greens, they got 8, which is the best result they've ever had. They're doing great. It's a fantastic result. I'm really pleased with it. But they could have had 14. 11 was probably quite achievable. 14 wasn't out of the realm of possibility. About 10%, I think, of SNP voters split from the constituency, then voted for Green on the list. So a significant amount of SNP voters did it, and a fair few Labour voters voted Green as well on their list vote. So the movement was there, but I think looking at it, you actually go, maybe the smart thing to do would have been to. I don't think you should have voted Albert, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think if independence was the thing you wanted, I didn't vote Green because they support independence. I voted Green because I like their policy. But if your one objective, just like the unionist tactical voting, like you said, if your one objective is independence, in a lot of areas, the smarter vote probably was SNP Greens.
And I only know the Glasgow example just because I don't really know if that would necessarily be applicable to other parts of the country
No, it
necessarily.
is. I think there are areas where it would have been. Not all areas, for
No,
sure,
yeah,
but
exactly. I
certainly.
only know for
Certainly.
sure that in Glasgow, another 900 votes would have secured an even bigger
Yeah,
pro-Indy coalition
yeah,
in
yeah,
in Holyrood. So
yeah.
it's interesting how these things work. No, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, and on that front, just
Mm.
following on, I'm interested where the Greens sort of sit now because they're in an interesting position. I think the Green Party because they are going to be in power in one way or another. They have a huge amount of leverage over the SNP.
Yeah,
Uh,
they are the
that
kingmaker.
they're the kingmaker.
Right.
They're essentially. I mean, they wouldn't like this comparison. They're the DUP of Scotland. They're God, can you imagine? No, that's a terrible example. But they essentially are the linchpin for all of this. So I think they have a huge opportunity to actually
shape.
say, yeah, to shape government policy and say, yeah, we'll go into coalition with you, but we've got some demands,
Mm.
and I quite like the Green leadership. I think both co-leaders are in now. It's Will Rennie and Lorna someone. No, sorry, not Patrick Harvey. What I'm talking about, Will Rennie is on my brain. Living rent free in my brain. Clearly, Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater, is it? They're both. I like them both. I think they've got an experienced and smart group in there. Who've been doing stuff at the local level for a long time, and they'll do well at Holyrood. So I'm really interested to see where the Greens. Well, we know where the Greens are going to go. They're probably going to be in coalition, but I'm interested in how they're going to play that. I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, just a couple of points on the Greens. I think Patrick Harvey in the every leadership debate he was in, I think absolutely wiped the floor with absolutely everyone. Came across really intelligent, could think on his toes, quick-witted. I think he came across really, really well in those leadership elections.
Agreed.
And then also, it's amazing because the Greens have a large number, and because the SNP are just at the cusp of having that majority, the Greens can make life for the SNP really easy. Flip side of that can make the life for them really hard if the SNP don't give them certain demands. So they are in a fantastic position because they'll be able to shape policy and and the SNP need them, and the SNP really do need them, and with them they can push through a lot of good progressive policies.
You've got a super majority. You've got with the coalition, you can do whatever you want. It's
exactly.
I think it's important. I think parties in power need someone to call out their bullshit. You need someone in the room to say that's wank, that's stupid. We're not supporting that.
Yeah.
And then they have the leverage to say if we're not supporting that, it's not happening. And that's the situation the Greens will be in. I think every major power holder needs a second party in the room that maybe doesn't have a veto but has the ability to put their foot down and say no. We either no out of the question or let's find the middle ground on that. And I think that's really healthy for a democracy. And now I'm very pleased with that. I think that is a good thing.
Exactly. And I think the Greens will be significantly better partners than the DUP were.
Or the Lib Dems. Oh yeah, God, yeah. I mean, it's a completely asinine comparison, to be honest. Yeah. I'm slightly embarrassed making it, but that's essentially their position they're in.
But it is a very valid comparison. As someone with an overwhelming number of seats coming just a bit short, and then with the DUP, I think it was 10 or 11. And here it's 8. So the comparison is a good comparison for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I think just the takeaway there is both votes SNP. Not convinced if you were purely looking at it from a pro-Indy strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100% convinced that was the right way to play it.
Tactically,
and the argument we made, well, if everyone who voted SNP and the constituency voted Greens, then we'd have had an outright majority, or didn't vote Greens. We'd have, if the constituency vote and the list vote had been the same, then they would have. But that's how democracy works. You can't punish people for voting how they want. So I saw a lot of SNP people on Twitter getting all butthurt about that. It's like, well, no, that is That's how democracy works. I've given you my constituency vote. I can give you my list vote, or I can vote for someone else. That's the system we have. You're allowed to do that. And it's similar to all the Labour people down in London who are all butthurt when Khan didn't get the first preference vote, but then they voted for them on the second preference, and they were there going, "Oh, it's ridiculous to be playing games with the political system like this." It's like, no, that's the system. You'd have your first preference, then your second preference, and guess what? Khan won. So it's the same thing. You've got your constituency vote and you've got your list vote, and you're allowed to say, this is the party I support, but I also support these guys. That's the point of it, and that's representative. So I don't have any time for people in the Scottish elections, also in the mayoral elections, complaining about the system, saying, "Oh, it's not fair. People aren't loyal." No, it's democracy. People can do what they want. That's the point of a democracy.
And I think more political expression is always better than less political expression. Because I'm all for people have that whole example of first and second preference in the London mayoral election. I think it is important that people say, I actually would much prefer this candidate.
Yeah.
But push come to shove, my second will be for Sadiq Khan, and I think that's a really important political expression where if we shame those people, they don't get given a voice and just go for the American lesser of two evils kind of thing.
I think I think you're right, and I think it's stupid for especially left-wing parties or individuals
supposedly left-wing
among left-wing parties, because there were people on the SNP side that were doing this, and obviously Labour people down in London doing this, where you're sort of shaming the voters that voted for you. But you're shaming them about how they voted, and it's like, come on, man, just get out of my face. Just get out of my face.
Really interesting point. There was an Oxford councillor who, of course, there was a bit of a kind of green revolution in Bristol and Oxford and places.
Yeah, there was.
One of the unseated Oxford councillors for Labour. I don't know if this is but I'm pretty sure it's a fairly accurate quote. Said the voters let us down, and it's like.
God,
Jesus, that's exactly the problem.
This is the problem. Oh my.
Funny, and I think I might be butchering it a bit, but I think that's a fairly accurate quote of what he said, pretty much.
Well, no, it's because it's what the Labour Party said after 2019. Basically, the Labour Party were like, "Voters are stupid. Why do we even need them anyway?" That was literally their response to losing an election. It's like because, and I hate that because you don't have a right to anyone's vote.
No.
And you especially you have to go win them. And you especially don't have a right in a system that allows someone two votes to both their votes. Be happy if they voted for you once in the one that counts, ultimately, on the mayoral system. And fortunately, you're in a situation in Scotland where you can vote for two different parties, and if it breaks right, both count. So I voted SNP Green. I got the SNP person voted in on the constituency level, and I got a Green MSP as well. Win-win as far. I got I got two representations for my vote. I'm thrilled. I did two votes, and I got two people in government.
No, definitely.
Fantastic. And then you've got left-wing. Well, not the parties themselves, but members of left-wing parties then turning around and going to the electorate and saying, "Oh, it's you're doing it wrong." Sorry, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like that Simpsons meme. Am I at fault? No, it's the voters who are wrong. It's like just what are you talking about?